Welcome back. Now in this video, we want to start talking about timeline operations. Of course, every video creator is going to be different, but when you start talking about matching audio to the images that are going to be in your video, you are going to have some options and tools available to you in order to make the timing perfect. What you're going to notice is that there is an image. There is a whiteboard and there's some writing on top of that whiteboard. And what we want to talk about in this video are native images to a scene. We're going to open up this image and you're going to notice that as we appear with this image that there is a whiteboard and then there is a businesswoman standing there. Now we decided to make this image native to the scene. And you'll notice then that there is 0 time that it takes in order to draw the image. And what that means is that when the scene starts, this image is already going to be there. And that's one tool that you have available to you. You don't have the time in order to draw it. You can make that time 0 in terms of the time it takes to draw it. And you can make it the first image in a scene so that when the scene starts, it appears. So let's take a look at how that actually works. And we're going to close this and we're just going to play this particular scene. And we're going to do that by just clicking this button inside of our video creator.
Introduction to strategic marketing.
And so what you notice is that when the scene started, the businesswoman as well as her clipboard was already there. And we started the animation with the writing. And again, native images give you the opportunity to put in explanatory images when a scene begins. And then you can actually build around those images when you're actually doing your animation. Now this computer monitor in our video is another native image. You'll notice that it has 0 time to animate. So when the scene actually starts, this computer monitor will be in the scene at the very beginning. And we're going to build around this computer monitor. So once again, let's take a look at how this monitor actually works in our scene.
More in our next video. If you'd like to explore this subject.
So you can see that having a native image actually gives you more options. It allows you to put more images in the screen to make your video more explanatory. So use this technique in terms of your timeline in order to give your video more life and more images so that your viewer will know what you are trying to say. Now in this video, we're going to be talking about another one of the timeline operations. In this particular case, you're looking at the video creator, Sparkle, and they call the time that it takes in order for the image to be drawn, animate. Now this may be called something different in your video creator, and the effect that you're trying to achieve is only partially important. What's important is the length of time that you decide that image is going to be drawn. And you can see here that it was decided that this writing, Introduction to Strategic Marketing, was going to take 1.5 seconds. Now, let's take a look as to how that works.
Introduction to strategic marketing.
So you can see there that this was timed so that it would coincide with the actual voiceover. Now, depending on how your video creator works, you can actually make that longer. Now, it may not match exactly with the timing, but what you're trying to do with your scenes is you're trying to time the exact total time of the scene and not so much the individual words to the writing. So let's take a look. If we were to lengthen the drawing time or the animation time, let's take a look at how that would work in this video.
Introduction to strategic marketing.
And as you can see, the timing is a little less precise. But again, all we're really trying to do is to get the timing of the entire scene in order to match. You'll see the same thing at play here when we look at this chart. So let's take a look at the drawing of this chart, and we've set this to 2.5 seconds.
During difficult economic times, they must market strategically. That means.
And once again, what we could do is we could shorten this. We could shorten this to 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds. And then we can take another look at this.
Economic times, they must mark it strategically.
So you can see that one of the elements that you have control of is the amount of time that it takes something to animate and finish its full effect. Now you're going to have lots of options inside of just about any video creator to do lots of different effects, but the most important thing is the timing, and that it occurs so that it makes your viewer focus not only on what's being said, but what they're looking at on the screen. What you want to be aware of when you're working with a timeline is that every change that you make is going to affect every scene that occurs after that. So if we lengthen this to 3.5 seconds, what that means is that these images are going to appear 1 second later. And so you're going to have to go back and make an adjustment here near the end, and it's fully possible to do that, but you want to make sure that you are looking at the entire timing of your entire scene as you go. So let's take a look at what we mean by that. At the very beginning of this video, we actually changed Introduction to Strategic Marketing, the writing, to 2.5 seconds. However, we compensated for that by shortening the length of time that it takes to draw this chart to 1.5 seconds. That would mean then that we would expect that the total timing of this video would be about the same. Now this function exists in Sparkle VideoScribe and exists in just about every other video creator, and that is that we can preview the entire scribe before we actually turn it into a video. And you're going to want to do this throughout your creation so that you'll understand and see the timing as it goes. Now we're not going to actually do this in this video, but you can actually do this at every stage as well as to play the individual scene elements. And you want to make sure that it's matching with the audio as you go. Now, next video, we're going to be talking about another timeline element that will help you to increase your accuracy in timing. Now, in this video, we want to discuss very briefly the timeline operation of the pause. So we're going to open up Introduction to Strategic Marketing. And we've discussed the animation timeline operation, but you'll notice that there is actually something called pause. And you will find this inside of Sparkle as well as some of the other video creators. In some cases, you will not find this operation. And what the pause does is it allows us to pause after the animation is being drawn. And what you're trying to do with the pause is you are trying to match the timing of the animation to the actual voiceover. So if you look at animation plus pause, this should equal the timing of the actual discussion. So in other words, we will actually play Introduction to Strategic Marketing, and you'll be able to see it then.
Introduction to Strategic Marketing.
Now you'll notice there was a slight pause before it starts to transition to the next scene. And what this does is it allows us to match the words to the actual speaker. In some cases, you will not want there to be a pause at all, and you'll see that as we illustrate with this chart. You'll notice that it took 1.5 seconds to draw the chart. We don't want there to be any pause between the actual drawing and the actual next part of the animation. And the reason is because we want the timing to actually match the words market strategically. And so you are actually doing each scene as one piece, but you control the pause so that it gives you additional time for the words to appear on the screen. So for example, let's take a look at market strategically after the chart.
During difficult economic times, they must market strategically. That means that
Okay, so you'll notice that there was no pause after the chart, but then there's a slight pause after market strategically because we want there to be timing between starting the next discussion, starting the next image, and starting the next screen. So what we're effectively trying to do is we're trying to give our viewer the opportunity to see the visual as well as to see some of the words as they're being spoken. Now, in some cases, you will have the pause combined with the transition. If that's the case, you'll need to operate these two together, but it bears a separate discussion because the transition actually is a timeline operation that does something entirely different. In this video, we're going to talk about the timeline operation of transition. And in some cases, and in some video creators, you will find that the transition feature is really combined with the pause feature. And basically, it's everything that happens after the pause or the animation or the movement to the next element in the scene. In some cases, this is going to be the transition to the entire next scene, but basically, we're going to move from this element, introduction to strategic marketing, to the next element in the scene. So you're going to be able to control how fast that happens with the transition feature. And once again, when you're using native images to a scene or to your video, you're not even going to use a transition. So in other words, there's not going to be any transition between the appearance of this image and then the starting of the next animation. But that is the only special case where your transition would be absolutely nothing. In most cases, because of the cadence of the actual narrator, your transition is going to be pretty consistent throughout your video. But once again, you're trying to time this entire piece for a scene, and you can actually use the transition when your audio doesn't match exactly with your animation and your words. You're going to notice here for the very last element, we have no transition. We have a 4.5 second pause. And the reason that we're doing that, so that these words will appear after the narrator has stopped and it will actually stay on the screen because it's our call to action. It's the last thing that we want people to see, and we want this to be before people when they actually finish the video. So these are the elements inside of every video creator that you'll want to use in order to time your words with your audio or the images with the audio. And it actually gives you latitude in terms of what you want to place on the actual canvas, in terms of what you want to display. You are now looking at the Warriors for Hire section of the Warrior Forum. And this is where you can find service providers who will be able to do any of the steps that we have outlined in this course. Now, you may want to do some or all of the steps yourself, but the pieces that you don't want to do, you can actually outsource to them in the Warriors for Hire section. And you'll see that if you do a simple search using the word animated, you'll be able to find different people who will do different parts of the process. Now remember, if you choose not to use an outsourcer, one of the services that you can use, again, is a little more expensive than your typical video creator, but does a lot of the process for you. You can use My Simple Show. For the process of content creation and finding actual facts for business, you can use the website Marketing Charts, which has a number of articles that will give you fact-based information that would be great to put inside of your videos as long as you give the proper attribution to the actual writer. Another newsletter that has good factual information that you can actually place inside of your videos is the eMarketer newsletter, and you can sign up and subscribe to that newsletter and then get access to their database. Finally, another way for you to find fact-based information to place in your videos is to use the Google Scholar website. This is where you will find academic articles as well as studies and surveys. So you now have a process you can use inside of any video creator such as Powtoon or GoAnimate or even Animatron or any video creator that you want to use. One of the keys is going to be getting your information into script form and being able to either narrate it or have it narrated, picking keywords for each of your scenes, getting any additional images that you are going to need in order to do your animation, finding royalty-free music if you're going to use music in your videos, and then using the timeline operation tools in order to match the audio with what you want people to see in your video. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you either in another video or in another course.